Farmers say they are scared of immigration raids at farms. Because of this, many workers are staying home. This means millions of dollars worth of fruit is not being picked. One farmer said, "Trump didn't give his farm support money. That's fine, we'll just burn the crops and let everyone go hungry." America used to be a strong farming country. But now, something strange is happening. Farmers are burning their fields. No one is harvesting. Young people are leaving the farms. Meanwhile, in Canada, the story is very different. Canadian farmers are busy. They are signing billion-dollar deals. They are selling to markets that once bought from the US. Why are American farmers burning their crops instead of harvesting them? When did Canada get ahead? And how does this change affect your grocery prices, your meals, and your country's economy? Let's look at 5 US states now struggling after losing farm export deals to Canada. This information is based on public data and is not meant to attack anyone. Number 1, Kansas. The first fires were seen in Kansas. These were not wildfires. Farmers set their own fields on fire. Kansas used to be known as the breadbasket of America, but now, wheat fields are quiet and empty. No trucks are running. No one is coming to buy the grain. Just a few years ago, Kansas was doing well. The state grew a lot of wheat and sold it to countries like Egypt, the Philippines, and Nigeria. In 2021, Kansas made up 20% of U.S. wheat production. This brought in billions of dollars. For the people here, planting wheat wasn't just work, it was a proud tradition. So why are they burning their fields now? There isn't just one reason. Many things are making it hard to farm. Prices for fertilizer, fuel, and repairs have gone up. Tax breaks that helped farmers were removed in 2025. Experts say U.S. farmers could lose $50 billion over the next 10 years. But it's not just money. There's also a labor problem. Since early 2025, more immigration raids have happened in farming states. Thousands of workers were arrested or left. Fields that used to be full of workers are now empty. Some Kansas farms say they lost 40% of their workers. Without enough help and with high equipment costs, many farmers gave up. They burned their crops so they could claim insurance. These labor laws were made to protect the border. But they are now hurting farming areas. The land is still good. The machines still work. But there aren't enough people to run them. At the same time, export deals are disappearing. Buyers from the Middle East, Africa, and Asia have stopped waiting. They are now buying from Canada. Canada didn't do anything flashy. They just delivered on time. Saskatchewan, a cold province in Canada, is now signing big wheat export deals. In 2024, one kind of wheat alone brought in 1.7 billion Canadian dollars. The province's total farm exports reached 45.4 billion Canadian dollars, one of the highest ever. Countries like the Philippines, Bangladesh, and even Japan are buying Canadian wheat now. In 2025, more deals were signed. Why? Not because Canadian land is better, but because their system is more stable and better organized. In the last 3 years, Canada has spent money to improve its farm infrastructure. They built railways from farms to ports. They added cold storage and better shipping systems. Now it costs 18 to 22% less to ship wheat from Saskatchewan to Asia than from the US, but the biggest difference is the people. Canada is training young farmers. In a program called Campus to Crop, students go to farms to learn hands-on. They check soil. They use drones to find pests. They use technology to guess how much wheat they'll grow. They learn that farming isn't just growing food, it's running a global business. In Kansas, the problem is the opposite. In early 2025, a survey showed only 11% of farm students in the Midwest wanted to go back to their family farms. Not because they hate farming, but because they saw their parents struggle. Broken machines, unpaid bills, and calls from the bank more often than rain in May. We don't need to say who's winning or losing. But the facts are clear. The USDA says wheat land in the U.S. will shrink to 9.4 million acres next year, the lowest since 1970. Meanwhile, Saskatchewan is growing more and planning to make more processed food and sell it to higher-paying markets. America's loss isn't just in wheat. It's in reputation. When farmers burn crops to avoid bigger losses, it's more than money. It shows the system is broken. While Kansas is full of smoke and empty fields, trucks from Saskatoon are lining up at Canadian ports, ready to send wheat to Asia. These trucks don't need big marketing campaigns. They carry one thing: trust. And today, trust is what buyers want most. And this is just the beginning. Next, we'll visit the second U.S. state where farmers are disappearing and Canadian farmers are celebrating. Number 2, Washington. Washington isn't burning like Kansas. But in June 2025, it became strangely quiet. No trucks. No crowds in fruit warehouses. No workers in the cherry orchards. This silence scared people. Every year, places like Tri-Cities and Wenatchee get ready for cherry season. If you're late by 1 week, the entire crop is ruined. Picking must be perfect. If you make a mistake, the shipment gets rejected. Farmers work hard to plan everything. Spraying schedules. Picking teams. Delivery trucks. But this year, one message changed everything. ICE might be nearby. There were no actual raids. No one was arrested. But the rumor alone made many workers leave overnight. The Washington Growers League said teams that normally had 150 workers now had fewer than 30. The workers who stayed were scared. They came early. They left late. They worked in small hidden groups. Cherries ripen fast. You only have a few days to pick them. If you're too late, they all go bad. Hundreds of acres were left untouched during cherry season. Cold storage units stayed empty. Many contracts were canceled because cherries could not be delivered on time. But losing crops was not the worst part. The hardest part was standing in the orchard, full of fruit, and being unable to do anything. It felt like money was falling to the ground one cherry at a time. Farmers could only watch. The damage didn't stop there. Packing plants had to reduce work hours. Shipping companies lost business. Small roadside diners that served fruit pickers closed early. In Seattle, cherry prices at the supermarket went up sometimes twice as much as last year. Even during harvest season, store shelves were empty. People stood in line just to buy local cherries. While Washington was struggling, British Columbia in Canada was doing something else. There were no big announcements, just quiet deals. By February 2025, the BC Cherry Association had already signed export deals for nearly the whole year. They sold to China, South Korea, Japan, the European Union, and the UK. This year, they shipped out 5 million boxes of cherries, a new record. Cold shipping containers were packed at the port of Vancouver. Trucks from the Okanagan Valley ran 24 hours a day to keep the cherries fresh. Many markets that used to buy U.S. cherries are now charging a 54% tax on American products. But they do not charge this tax on Canadian cherries. So, all those orders moved to Canada without question. According to industry reports, in just a few months, British Columbia took $300 million worth of cherry contracts that used to belong to Washington. The biggest difference was planning. Canada didn't wait for a crisis. They had already built a strong system. They had good roads, cold storage, and high-quality packaging. Their cherries stayed fresh until October, even after the U.S. season ended. Packing companies in Surrey and Kelowna worked harder to meet rising demand from Asia. Meanwhile, in the U.S., cherry farmers in places like Mattawa lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in just a few weeks. They couldn't sell their fruit. And they didn't have money to prepare for the next season. But what scared them more than the crop loss was losing hope for the future. They didn't just lose customers. They lost their position as the world's main cherry exporter. Now, Canada is signing long-term deals that will last 3 to 5 years. These deals offer a stable supply chain, reliable delivery, and fair prices. Once these deals are made, it is very hard for buyers to go back to the US. What made people feel uneasy was not just losing money. It was watching the entire farming system quietly fall apart. Fruit left unpicked. Orders left unfinished. Workers not returning. Buyers not waiting. But the bank still calls on time. This isn't just about cherries. It's a warning sign for all US fruits. Apples, grapes, plums, even hops used in beer depend on the same workers. When cherries fail, the entire system starts to break. Canada isn't celebrating loudly. But they see this as a chance to grow. They are now building long-term deals instead of just seasonal ones. They are focused on quality and staying out of politics. This makes Canada look like a more reliable partner. And the US is starting to look unstable. Farmers in Washington don't need big ideas. They just need workers. They just need promises to be kept. They just need to believe that next season will be better. But this summer, standing in full orchards with nothing to sell, many felt hopeless. Now, Canada is even testing cherry shipments to India and the UAE. These are countries that used to trust the US. This shift is no longer temporary. It is becoming the new reality. Number 3, California. A few years ago, no one believed Canada could beat California in vegetable exports. But in summer 2025, that's exactly what happened. There were no big news stories. Just vegetables arriving on time. While Americans were paying over $6 for a small bunch of lettuce, Canadian vegetables kept arriving in stores across the border. Fresh vegetables from Ontario and British Columbia were being shipped out daily. They went to countries like Japan, Singapore, the UK, France, and Mexico. These were places that once only bought vegetables from California. Now, they are signing contracts with Canada instead. Why? Because they need a stable and reliable supply. According to Canada's Ministry of Agriculture, in just 3 months, Canada exported $3.84 billion Canadian dollars in vegetables. That's a new record. Orders to Japan and Singapore nearly doubled. In the UK, one major grocery chain started buying 40% of its leafy greens from Canada. Now, lettuce, carrots, and celery in stores come with labels saying, "Product of Canada," and no one questions it. Not because it's cheaper but because it's always on time. Cold storage warehouses in Ontario were upgraded this year. The temperature tracking during transport is connected to warehouses in Tokyo and Singapore. Every step is controlled. That makes a big difference. Canada didn't try to replace the US, they simply showed up when the US didn't. In California, the story is different. In Salinas, once called the green heart of the US, harvest season was strangely quiet. Fields of lettuce were full. Broccoli was ready to pick. But no one came to collect it. Under the hot June sun, vegetables started to rot. Many farmers had to destroy their crops. Not because they wanted to, but because leaving them there cost more than harvesting. When no contracts come, when no trucks arrive, when no workers show up, each day becomes another day of loss. In just 3 months of 2025, California lost almost $900 million in vegetable exports. These numbers became real when people saw the prices in stores. Vegetable prices went up. But shelves were still empty. People started buying frozen vegetables instead. Some skipped fresh vegetables altogether. Not because they didn't want to eat healthy, but because fresh food had become too expensive. If you're living on a fixed income, retired, or working a low-wage job, then paying $6 for wilted lettuce is not just annoying, it's a hard choice. That money might need to go toward rent or medicine instead. In places like Fresno, Sacramento, and San Jose, it was even worse. Seniors who depend on government help had to choose between vegetables and medicine. Many cut back and ate vegetables only once or twice a week. A quick survey by a California nutrition group found that over 40% of seniors in the Central Valley had a serious lack of fresh vegetables. A big vegetable packing company in Fresno had to recall a batch of food. It might have been unsafe because of a bacteria called botulism. This was not the farmer's fault. The real problem was a lack of trained staff. When there are not enough workers, even a small mistake can ruin a whole shipment. This hurts farmers and damages the reputation of U.S. food. Canada didn't rush in to take over. They just stayed on track while the U.S. struggled. Provinces like Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia invested early. They built cold storage, set up final quality checks, and improved transport systems. While the U.S. was dealing with water rules, carbon taxes, and labor problems, Canada quietly built a new system to move food. Quietly but effectively. An Asian restaurant in San Francisco had to cut 30% of its menu. There weren't enough good vegetables to cook with. A school district near Los Angeles removed salads from student lunches to save money. These things used to be unthinkable. But they're happening in a state that once fed the entire country. In Salinas, the fields are still green. But everything is quiet. There is no fire like in Kansas. No fallen fruit like in Washington. Just silence from the farms to the dinner tables. People may not read trade reports. But when they open the fridge and see "Product of Canada" on a head of lettuce, they know something has changed. Canada doesn't need slogans. They are giving the world what it wants most: stability. This time, America wasn't there when it mattered. But vegetables are only one part of the meal. Fall is coming. Grain and bean harvests are next in the Midwest. And contracts have already been signed with other countries. Places like Africa and the Middle East will not be buying from the U.S. The U.S. isn't just losing crops. It's losing its role as a global food leader. Up north, Canada is ready to take the next step. Number 4, Texas, empty barns. Dry yellow grass. For sale, signs leaning under the hot sun. This is not a movie. This is real life in Texas. Texas used to be the beef capital of America. It had nearly 1/4 of the nation's cattle. Every week, millions of pounds of beef were sent to stores, restaurants, and overseas. But in summer 2025, things changed fast. The reason wasn't a disease or natural disaster. It was the breakdown of the system. Countries like Japan, South Korea, and Singapore now want safe and traceable beef. They want proof it's hormone-free. But most Texas beef can't meet these new rules. There were also reports of E. coli at a plant in North Texas. Many buyers canceled their orders. They were not just worried about safety. They also questioned if the U.S. could fix problems quickly. Many Texas ranches had to shrink their herds. Not because the cows were sick, but because there was no one to sell them to. Since early 2025, Texas lost more than 12% of its cattle. Beef exports also dropped by 15% compared to 2022. Prices in the U.S. are now unpredictable. This makes it hard for ranchers to plan or survive. Over 100 feedlots closed in 1 year. These are places that fatten cows before they're sold. Slaughterhouses also shut down or reduced work. There weren't enough cows or orders. This led to thousands of job losses from truck drivers to quality inspectors. Towns near Amarillo and Lubbock are now quiet. Meanwhile, Canada is gaining ground. They didn't make noise. They just kept sending steady shipments. In the first 4 months of 2025, Canada exported $1.22 billion USD worth of beef. That's up 19% from the year before. Most of it went to countries that once bought from the U.S. South Korea bought 10% more. Taiwan increased orders by 79%. The Philippines bought 31% more. Why are they choosing Canada? Not because it's cheaper, but because Canada keeps its promises. In Alberta and Manitoba, every cow is tracked by QR code. They know where it came from, what it ate, and when it was processed. The beef meets halal rules and avoids growth hormones. It also meets high standards for the environment and social responsibility. New contracts are long-term, 3 to 5 years. They guarantee both quality and on-time delivery. In the US, buyers worry about confusing rules and changes in policy. Even if you live in Texas and don't follow trade news, you feel the change when you shop. Beef is more expensive, but the cuts are smaller or unfamiliar. Small diners are shrinking portions. Some restaurants are now buying meat from Australia or Brazil. The whole system is shifting. And Texas ranchers are getting left behind. Not because they did something wrong, but because they couldn't keep up with a system that was built carefully over years. Beef used to be an American icon. Family meals. Holiday dinners. Cultural pride. But now, that icon is fading. Steaks and burgers are getting smaller. The label no longer says, "Made in the USA," Canada isn't bragging. They just built a strong system. They focused on high standards and serious buyers. They didn't try to act like cowboys. They just kept winning contracts one shipment at a time. Meanwhile, Texas, once a symbol of strength, is now a symbol of burnout. And maybe one day soon, when someone in Tokyo or Paris orders a steak, it will come from Canada, not Texas. The Texas sun is still hot. But the shadow of the past is getting longer. The barns are empty. And the harvest season is coming with no one left to gather the crops. Let me know if you'd like me to continue with the Iowa section. The clearest proof that American farmers are falling behind is in Iowa. In towns like Cedar Rapids and Fort Dodge, farmers are thinking about not planting anything. It's not because they don't love farming. It's because they don't see any hope for the future. In some places, soybeans are sitting in garages. Some farmers are even renting space in other states to store their crops. They are waiting for better prices next year. But no one knows when next year will be better. The problem is not just on the farms. It's affecting the whole town. Gas stations have fewer customers. Restaurants that used to be full during harvest are now empty. Schools in rural areas are offering mental health help to parents. Many are feeling sad and hopeless as their hard work loses value. Iowa's silos are full. But no one is buying the crops. At the same time, in Manitoba, Canada, people are happy. They are not celebrating a bigger harvest. They are celebrating because they were prepared. Most of their crops were already sold months ago. Countries like South Korea, China, and the Philippines used to buy from Iowa. Now, they are buying from Canada. In Manitoba, buyers are ready before the harvest begins. They have cold storage and clear inspections. They promise to deliver on time. Cold trains carry food from farms to the port of Vancouver smoothly. This is something Iowa used to do well, but not anymore. Iowa still plants and harvests. It still works hard. But now, it doesn't know who it's working for. Some ethanol plants in Iowa have shut down. They can't afford to run. A heatwave in June made everything worse. Crops were damaged. Workers were tired. Cooling costs went up. At the same time, a report said some Iowa soil has too much nitrate. This could make food unsafe. What hurts most is not failure. It's failing after giving your best effort. Iowa is not weak. It just didn't get time to change and catch up. While Iowa kept doing things the old way, others moved ahead. They started processing earlier. They made deals early. They built better delivery systems. People in the US might not notice yet. But if you live in Des Moines and check your fridge, you may see sauces from Mexico or Ontario. And nothing from your local farms. That's when you realize something has changed. Some still believe the US is the world's breadbasket. But more and more of our food is now coming from other countries. Iowa has too many soybeans and no buyers. Manitoba is growing stronger. They are selling more, getting more investment, and becoming the safe choice for world trade. Banks in Manitoba are even earning more money now because of farming. People in the US Midwest still rely on farming. But now, many feel unsure about the future. No one is burning fields. No one is running away. But everyone is waiting. And nothing is changing. The story in Iowa ends with silence. Not with fire or noise, but with a quiet sadness. And a big question. We still have the land. We still have the silos. We still have the people. But if no one needs our crops, what do we really have? 5 states. 5 stories. Some are burning their crops. Some are empty. Some are growing more food than ever. But they are also more worried than ever. And in Canada, there are no big celebrations. They are just quietly signing the deals. Maybe you always believed that Iowa's corn would always be here. That Washington's cherries were always in season. That Texas beef was America's pride. But now, grocery prices are rising. Fruits are missing from the shelves. Meat is more expensive than gas. Do you feel something is changing? Is America entering a new chapter? A time where we had to import the food we once grew ourselves? From countries that used to look up to us? Do you think everything is shifting? Not loudly, but in quiet, real ways. Tell us what you think in the comments. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and turn on notifications, so you won't miss the next one. This video was made using real data and independent research. We hope it helps you understand what's happening and take action in time.